Hello everyone, and welcome to this, my latest Doctor Who DVD collection review and overview. So we are on the next part now, which is, of course, New Who, as we have already delved into the classic era, as you can see towering above me there. And yes, we're now down to the New Who era, where the show was picked up again. And I was considering maybe doing a Ninth Doctor video separately from the 10th Doctor, of course David Tennant, and the 9th Doctor being of course Christopher Eccleston. But I decided, as Christopher Eccleston's era was so sadly brief, I thought I'd combine the two. So essentially this is a kind of a celebration of the Russell T Davies era. So what do I think of all these DVDs and series and episodes alike? Well, we'll soon find out. So let's get started. So we begin with the very first series of New Who, which starred Christopher Eccleston as the 9th Doctor. And here is the first DVD of that series, and it's Volume 1, Series 1. And it features the episodes Rose, The End of the World, and The Unquiet Dead. Now, Rose, I think, is a really nice opener. I think it's a really good start to the new series, and to be honest, I think it's really good that they introduced an older enemy, which would be familiar to obviously older fans, but for new generations as well, it'd be something exciting to discover with the Autons, of course. So I would give Rose an 8 out of 10, a really good start. Yeah, the next episode is The End of the World, which again, I originally thought this was a really good story. Having rewatched it, oh, there it goes. Having rewatched it, I probably would give it a 7 out of 10. It is quite captivating, it is quite good, but it's definitely not one of the best from the series. And thirdly, The Unquiet Dead, which I give an 8 out of 10 for. As actually rewatching it, I really enjoyed it, and I really enjoyed the way they mixed the sort of spooky horror of Victorian London, Cardiff rather, and Charles Dickens makes an appearance, so it's a sort of semi-historical as well, and I think it's really nicely executed and really quite a nice sort of Christmas story as well. So I give The Unquiet Dead 8 out of 10. Next we have Volume 2 of Series 1, and that features Aliens of London, World War III and Dalek. So what do I think of this volume? It's a good volume. I'd give Aliens of London, I'd give that probably an 8 out of 10. I really enjoyed the start, and that scene with the UFO hitting Big Ben is kind of a sort of a recall that is revisited in the series. It's quite an iconic moment in the New Who era. But I think World War III is good, but a little bit underwhelming. I give that a 7 out of 10. On the other hand, Dalek, I would say, is one of the best Dalek stories from not just New Who, but also from Classic Who as well. Definitely the best Dalek story, I think, since, I would probably say, Remembrance of the Daleks. I actually give this a 10 out of 10, so in some respects I obviously prefer it, as I gave Remembrance a 9 out of 10. So yeah, it's just great. The way they sort of go into the sort of psyche of what a Dalek would do to itself had it be aware of exactly how evil and corrupt it actually is. It's a great concept and a great story, one of the best from the First Doctor era. Then we have Volume 3 with The Long Game, Father's Day, Empty Child and The Doctor Dances. Empty Child and The Doctor Dances being a two-parter. The Long Game, it features Simon Pegg, so I quite enjoy it personally. It's not one of the best. I'd probably give it a 7 out of 10. It does have a classic Doctor Who feel about it, to be fair, but yeah, not one of the best out there. And Father's Day, that's an interesting concept, and the sort of changing time and events and everything, that's really, really good. And Father's Day, The Empty Child and The Doctor Dances, I think it's a great story as well. It's a great two-parter. I've got to say I find it a little overrated, because obviously I wasn't as young as a lot of the people who originally was introduced to these stories, so it didn't creep me out or scare me quite as much as I was expecting it to, but still a great story. So yeah, Long Game 7 out of 10. Father's Day, Empty Child and The Doctor Dances both get an 8 out of 10. And then next we have the last volume of Series 1. We have Volume 4, and that is featuring Boomtown, Bad Wolf, and The Parting of the Ways. Boomtown is probably my least favourite story from the series. I give it a 7 out of 10 still, because there's some really good comic moments in that story. But yeah, it just wasn't one of the best, to be honest. And yeah, it just wasn't overly impressive. But the Bad Wolf Parting of the Ways finale 2-part story, a running theme of Bad Wolf goes on throughout the series, is kind of the story arc, and it's done very subtly and is sort of brought to our attention at the very end in this 2-parter. Of course, it features the Emperor Dalek and the Daleks, and the first episode, there's like a series of contestant shows, so like Big Brother and The Weakest Link, and the way it's done and the way the build-up happens and the suspense and everything really does remind me of classic Doctor Who. And I've got to say, joint with another one, this is probably my favourite 2-part finale from the New Who era. 10 out of 10 for both of them. I really, really enjoyed that. And Christopher Eccleston's series in general was just one of the absolute best. I really enjoyed Series 1. And to be honest, I didn't think I was going to enjoy Christopher Eccleston very much as the Doctor, as I'm not the biggest fan of him as an actor, but he is fantastic as the Doctor, I have to say. So yeah, a great series. It's a shame that it was so short-lived, but yeah, that is the Christopher Eccleston series and his era. And now we come to the mammoth era of David Tennant. So we start off with the second series, Volume 1, which is The Christmas Invasion and New Earth. Not particularly interesting, the Christmas Invasion. There's some funny moments in it, but overall it's not the strongest start to a series, and New Earth is a little bit rubbish as a story. I mean, the execution's quite interesting in places. I give them both a 7 out of 10. They're good, they're just nothing spectacular. And then we have Series 2, Volume 2, which introduces K9 into one of the episodes. First of all, we start off with Tooth and Claw. 6 out of 10. I just didn't really find that one very interesting. School Reunion is fantastic. That is where K9 comes back, and of course the reintroduction of Sarah Jane. And then we have The Girl in the Fireplace, which I give an 8 out of 10. So School Reunion and Girl in the Fireplace, both 8 out of 10. Both very good stories. Really, really enjoyed those. One of the highlights from Series 2, to be fair. Incidentally, David Tennant is not my favourite Doctor from the New Who era. I don't rate him as highly as a lot of people do. He is good as the Doctor, but I just find him quite arrogant, and the storyline between him and Rose, with Rose sort of falling for the Doctor, I just was not invested in that. I just had no interest in that at all. So that is one of the things that sort of brings Series 2 in particular down for me. And then we come to Volume 3 with Rise of the Cybermen, The Age of Steel, and The Idiot's Lantern. The Rise of the Cybermen and Age of Steel 2-parter is really good. It's the reintroduction of the Cybermen. As you can see, their redesign, I'm not overly keen on their redesign. They look too robotic for me, but still good. But I've got to say, Rise of the Cybermen, I give an 8 out of 10, but The Age of Steel, again, has that classic Doctor Who base under siege kind of feel about it, which I really enjoyed. So I give that a 9 out of 10. I really, really loved that one. The Idiot's Lantern, it's relatively fun on first viewing, but it's not a great story. I give it a 6 out of 10. And then we come to Volume 4 with The Impossible Planet and The Satan Pit 2-parter, and Love and Monsters. Yeah, the Impossible Planet and Satan Pit, fantastic. Definitely has that sort of moon base 10th planet feel for me, and really, really loved that. I give both of them a 9 out of 10. Really enjoyed that 2-parter. But the Love and Monsters, widely considered a not very good story, and I agree. It's not bad, but it's incredibly average. I like that they try to do something different, but for me it doesn't hold my attention really. And then finally we get Volume 5 of Series 2, featuring Fear Her, Army of Ghosts, and Doomsday. Yeah, Fear Her, not a great story. It's okay. It serves a purpose, I guess. It's not one of my favourites. Army of Ghosts, is good. The whole Cybermen and Dalek sort of battle going on. The Daleks just absolutely annihilate the Cybermen, and I don't think it was a real fair reflection of their sort of like their sort of the stuff they have in their canon. I think the Cybermen are much more fierce and much more clever in the way they go about things than the Daleks made them look in this story. But it was good. And then Doomsday, not a massive fan of that either. It's okay. It serves a purpose, but the whole ending between Rose and the Doctor, soppy, but not in a good way. I just was not invested or interested in that whatsoever. So yeah, Doomsday, not a great finale to the two-parter. I give that a 6 out of 10. Then we have The Runaway Bride, which features, of course, Catherine Tate as Donna Noble. This is the first time, but not the last time she appears. It's quite funny. It gives us definitely a sort of idea of where they would go later on when she returns. And yeah, The Runaway Bride is quite fun. It's not a bad story. I give it an 8 out of 10, actually. I quite enjoyed it. And then we come to season 3, which introduces Martha Jones. Again, the whole love interest between her and the Doctor was, again, not something I was a massive fan of. But I kind of let it slip because the Doctor doesn't really pander to it like he does with Rose Tyler. But Smith and Jones is the first story, and I quite enjoyed this one. I think it's pretty good, actually. I give it an 8 out of 10. I think it's a little bit underrated. Shakespeare Code, I give a 7 out of 10. It was good, but the ending was a little bit over the top, and I kind of feel they were trying to do the sort of Unquiet Dead theme again, but unlike Unquiet Dead, this wasn't executed nearly as well. And then we have finally Gridlock, which is for me one of the classics from the Tennant Era, especially in the first 2 series of his reign. Yeah, Gridlock, I really like that idea, and it shows the Macras as well. They return in this story, so yeah, I give that one a 9 out of 10. And then we come to Volume 2 of Series 3 with Daleks in Manhattan and Evolution of the Daleks, 2-parter. Then the Lazarus Experiment and 42. The 2-parter of the Daleks, yeah, not one of my absolute favourites. I would probably say that I would give both of them a 6 out of 10. I quite like that they tried something different, but for me, it just didn't quite work. I did really like the setting though in America, in the United States. I quite liked that, but other than that, it just didn't really hold my attention either. Yeah, 6 out of 10 for those. Lazarus Experiment, again, not overly memorable. 6 out of 10 for that. 42, on the other hand, was really good. I really like that. Again, it has a base Under Siege feel about it. I give that an 8 out of 10. Then, probably the best volume from Series 3, we have Human Nature, The Family of Blood 2-parter, and of course, Blink. Human Nature and Family of Blood, it's a novelisation turned into a TV story. It featured Sylvester McCoy in the actual novelisation, but obviously David Tennant as the Doctor in the TV episodes. Really good, really creepy, suspenseful, quite a good story overall. I actually really enjoyed it. I give both of them an 8 out of 10, and Blink is a 10 out of 10. It is a little bit overrated, but still worthy for me of a 10 out of 10, because the complexity of the story and the introduction of the Weeping Angels is a masterpiece. It has to be said, even though it's not technically a Doctor-focused story. Yeah, Blink is absolutely fantastic. But yeah, that's a great volume. And then we have Series 3, Volume 4, Utopia, The Sound of Drums, and Last of the Time Lords, featuring John Sim as the Master. And of course, yeah, Torchwood returns as well in Series 3. I'm not sure if they're in Series 2. I can't remember that far back. I know they're in Series 1, but yeah, we get them back here as well. And it's kind of a 3-parter, really. But Sound of Drums and Last of the Time Lords is more considered that it's more of a focused 2-parter for the finale of the series. Utopia, I give a 7 out of 10. Pretty good sort of suspenseful cliffhanger. And then Sound of Drums, I give an 8 out of 10. And then Last of the Time Lords, I give a 9 out of 10. A really strong end to this finale, and yeah, it's really, really good. Quite enjoyed that one. Wasn't expecting too much from it, but John Sims, although a little bit wacky as the Master, is pretty good. And then we come to the next Christmas special, Voyage of the Damned. I said during my Colin Baker review that the guy who played Richard from Keeping Up Appearances appears in Revelation of the Daleks, and he appears again in this, and he's pretty good in this as well. And of course, Kylie Minogue as the companion. It's okay, 6 out of 10, nothing spectacular. Now we come to one of my favourite series from the New Who era, Series 4, Return of Donna Noble, this time as a fully fledged companion. No love interest between her and the Doctor, which I really enjoy, and it's just great to have a proper series with David Tennant as the Doctor and a companion, just going on adventures and venturing into time and space. And Volume 1, Partners in Crime, which is a bit strange, it's okay. I'd give that probably a 7 out of 10. The Fires of Pompeii, that's a great sort of semi-historical, which features Peter Capaldi as well. And the Doctor has to make a very dramatic choice in this story, and it's really well executed. I give that an 8 out of 10. And then we have Planet of the Ood, which is a pretty good story as well. I actually really like that one as well. I give that an 8 out of 10. Then we have Volume 2, and as you can see, Martha Jones appears in this one, in the two-part of the Sontaran Stratagem and the Poison Sky. For a Sontaran story, it's not one of the best, but I did enjoy it, I've got to say. It was really good. I'd probably give that, but both of them I give an 8 out of 10 for those. And then we have, after that, The Doctor's Daughter. Strange concept, which I really wasn't very convinced by when it started out. I thought I was quite sceptical about it. But as it went on, I actually really enjoyed it. So I give that an 8 out of 10. And The Unicorn and the Wasp, I don't understand the liking for that one. I don't get it. I thought it was rubbish. I really didn't like it. I give that, it was a very average as a story. I give it a 5 out of 10. Then we have one of the best volumes from the entire range of New Who. We have Volume 3, Silence in the Library, Forest of the Dead, and Midnight. Again, this two-parter has a sort of feel of the classic era. It's very creepy, very suspenseful, very sort of contained and very claustrophobic. And it's the introduction of River Song, where she isn't actually completely and utterly annoying, and it actually is an interesting twist to the Doctor's sort of life and history, really, when she sort of rears her ugly head, metaphorically speaking, of course, sorry. But yeah, so Volume 3, Silence in the Library and Forest of the Dead, absolutely spectacular two-parter, 10 out of 10. And Midnight, absolutely brilliant, featuring I think it's Michael Troughton, of course, Patrick Troughton's son. It might be David, I can't quite remember. Features in this one as well. Very, very claustrophobic. Definitely has that moon-based feel about it. Really love that story. A 10 out of 10. Absolutely brilliant. And then we come to the last volume, Volume 4, Turn Left, The Stolen Earth and Journey's End. A 3-part finale and a sort of celebration of the Russell T Davies era, really, with all the sort of companions coming back, as well as Torchwood and everything. And yeah, Turn Left is very good. I'd probably give that an 8 out of 10. When it comes to Stolen Earth, I'd probably give that one a 9, and Journey's End a 9 as well. I think it was a really nice way to end off the actual series itself, and really did enjoy that. So yeah, the end of the Russell T Davies era in terms of series, but we did have another series of specials, which start off with this one, The Next Doctor. Don't really enjoy this one. It's very average, very forgettable. David Morrissey doesn't really interest me as a performer in this one, so yeah, probably my least favourite actually. Might surprise some people, but yeah. Then we have Planet of the Dead, which actually I don't mind. I give it a 7 out of 10. Lee Evans is good. Michelle Ryan is very good in this as well, and it's quite a fun little story if you don't take it too seriously. Then we have, along for me, with Silence in the Library and Forest of the Dead. Is it Forest of the Dead? I keep forgetting it. Yeah, Forest. No, where is it? Where's the volume gone? There it is, yeah, Forest of the Dead. Come on, get a grip. Forest of the Dead, and of course, Midnight. I would say this is probably one of the absolute best Tennant stories, if not one of the best from the New Who era, Waters of Mars. It's just a full-length, feature-length special of a very creepy, very claustrophobic, very action-packed story with a lot of deaths. Very good concept, with water being the destruction in this story. Such a simple yet effective idea, and the monsters are absolutely creepy as hell. So brilliant, and you really think it's the end of the world in this one. It's just you think there's no way out, but it's absolutely fantastic. 10 out of 10 for that. Then we have the 2-part finale, The End of Time, parts 1 and 2. Okay, so this is the end of the Tennant era, many people's favourite Doctor. I didn't dislike it, but I didn't like it either. I didn't think it was that impressive. I give End of Time Part 1 a 7 out of 10. The Master is a little bit more like a Marvel character in this story rather than a sort of Doctor Who Master, but regardless, it's good. Bernard Cribbins is very good in this, of course. He plays Donna Noble's grandfather. Yeah, I give it a 7 out of 10. Part 2, I do give a better mark. I give that an 8 out of 10. But the last few scenes with Bernard Cribbins in the sort of chamber where he's sort of trapped and the Doctor's being very, very sort of uncharacteristically selfish, I didn't like that. And of course the infamous line, "I don't want to go," whatever, that really put me off Tennant's Doctor. It really did. You know, Tom Baker's Doctor was in the show for 7 years. He's considered by many as the definitive Doctor, and yet this little upstart thinks he has the right to refuse regeneration. I don't think so. But other than that, it was a pretty good story overall. I'll give it an 8 out of 10 for part 2, because it was quite good overall. And so my arm is about to drop off, but that is it for the Russell T Davies era. We have had Christopher Eccleston and David Tennant era covered now. So all that's left now is the controversial Stephen Moffat era. And we have, of course, Matt Smith, who I'm just going to say now is my favourite New Who Doctor, so there may be a bit of bias with this. And then we have Peter Capaldi's era. So that's it for this part, and don't forget, like, subscribe, share and comment, and I will see you folks on the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.